A new FPL squad strategy has arrived for Game Week 16. Welcome to FPL Mate, my name is Dan, and with some expensive defenders doing quite well as some cheap midfielders finally starting to get some points, I think there are a few tweaks that we can make to our FPL teams and re-strategize ahead of the upcoming game weeks. We're going to be sharing plenty of tips in this video. So today I wanted to share with you my new kind of plan of where I want to take my FPL team, and I think a lot of you guys may agree with these kind of things, with the kind of players we want to be targeting for the upcoming game weeks, as well as how we can reshift our strategies just a little bit with new information. And guys, I have built a team today that costs 102.3 million. I am going to make some suggestions on how you can make this team a little bit cheaper if you do have lower budget, but this strategy really works better the higher budget you have, and hopefully a lot of you guys are pushing towards 103 million for your budget right now if all is going well. But this is still going to work for the majority of people as long as you have some money, at least. Anyway, this team is optimized for game week 16 through 28, so you don't necessarily have to get to a team exactly like this right away. But as we move through the game weeks, we should try and get something closer to this, I think is going to be the optimal thing to do. So let's go position by position and have a look at this structure and why I think it works so well. So let's start off in goal with Raya. Very easy for me because looking through some of the cheaper goalkeepers that maybe we liked the look of a couple of weeks ago, such as Verbruggen and Sanchez, really hasn't been going to plan. Neither team is really showing very much promise defensively, and I think Arsenal are the team to be trusted. So having a look at the past 10 game weeks, we see that Arsenal are way out ahead in the non-penalty expected goals against category stats here. Really far ahead, especially when you consider Liverpool and Everton are in second and third, and these teams, well, they've played one less game than Arsenal, and still we see Arsenal with a super low expected goals against. They are not allowing very many chances at all. They're really not. Have been incredibly unfortunate to have only kept 2 clean sheets in the past 10 game weeks, and I think that is going to continue to improve as we go through the weeks. Looking at their fixtures, we have Everton, Crystal Palace and Ipswich in the next 3. All 3 phenomenal fixtures and opportunities for Arsenal to keep clean sheets, and with Arsenal, you kind of back them as a high chance of a clean sheet no matter who they're playing. So Raya is the goalkeeper for me, and we can move on into defence with Trent Alexander-Arnold. And we did just mention that Liverpool are second, one less game played, but they are second place in terms of those expected goals against. However, a big thing about Liverpool is that we are predicting a double game week could come soon, as early as game week 25 for Liverpool. So we do have a chance of a double game week in game week 25. It could technically happen even sooner, but it's something to be aware of, and I think we do need to start thinking about bringing in some more Liverpool players to supplement Salah in our team. Now, maybe you don't do it this game week. Fulham and Spurs, they're not the perfect fixtures for any team from a defensive point of view, but he is certainly a player I would look towards working into my team in the very near future, particularly from game week 18 onwards, where Liverpool's fixtures do look much nicer. Trent also showing a lot of attacking promise in the last 2 Premier League games that he has played in, including that substitute appearance a couple of weeks ago where he got 2 assists from the bench. So really nice and creative, back to his own old self, which is very positive, and I think 7 million is a good price tag for him when you consider clean sheet potential and attacking potential, and just a reliable player who you can just play every single game week. When you've got attacking potential, even the tricky fixtures look a little less tricky, don't they? We're going to move on to Gabriel next. We already spoke about the Arsenal defence, and of course we don't know for sure if Gabriel is going to be available for game week 16 or not, but the good thing is Arsenal do have a Champions League game against Monaco in the midweek, and if he's in the squad in that game, or we get any positive press conference notes, or we get pictures of him training, then this is going to help us decide whether Gabriel is the one to go for. Now, of course, Trent and Gabriel are pretty expensive, so if you are wanting to go a little cheaper than Trent, then maybe Van Dijk would be the play. I'm not really convinced by any of the other Liverpool defenders right now. You could maybe go for Alisson as a goalkeeper if you think he's going to be back. And for Arsenal, if you're unsure about Gabriel, I think Timber is still a really nice player to go for. Not so keen on Saliba. I think he has been a little bit fortunate with goals recently, and I think going forward, Gabriel will be the main man getting the goals from those set pieces for Arsenal. So Trent and Gabriel are the ideal two expensive premium defenders to go for, but outside of that, I don't mind having a look at Van Dijk or Timber if your budget is a little bit lower. But anyway, let's move on to the final defender, and it is going to be Kerkez. Now, going back again to our best defenders over the past 10 game weeks, and we do see Bournemouth are in 4th. Brilliant stuff. Bournemouth actually doing pretty well defensively so far this season. I know they haven't always had the finishing ability to score goals, but still, Kerkez created a brilliant chance for Tavernier in the midweek, was creative the week before that as well. We've seen a lot of really positive performances from Kerkez, where he has looked good for attacking returns. In fact, he is putting up some of the better attacking numbers over the past several game weeks. We've seen 8 key passes, 4 big chances created, 0.98 XA, has 2 assists, but maybe could have had another one there as well. He has, of course, scored a goal, but shooting is not really his thing. Now, Kerkez is also pretty good for bonus points, as he creates so much. This generates bonus points potential. If Bournemouth are to keep a clean sheet, out of all of the Bournemouth defenders, Kerkez is the one most likely to get the bonus points, particularly as Bournemouth don't score too many goals either. So Kerkez, good for clean sheets, good for bonus points, and has that attacking threat as well. Really like this pick at 4.6 million, and definitely a player I would consider going for ahead of some pretty decent fixtures here. West Ham and Crystal Palace are standing out to me, but he's a nice rotation defender, and we will come back to this point in the very near future. But first, we've got to move on into midfield. But before we do, if you don't mind leaving a like on the video, that would be massively appreciated. Really does help out the channel, and do consider subscribing if you are after some more FPL tips. New videos coming every day, and I'm sure you guys are going to enjoy them. Let's keep moving. So the first 3 midfielders I'm sure are going to be pretty obvious to most of us if we're looking for that ideal squad structure for this present moment in FPL. And it's going to start off with Mo Salah. We mentioned the possibility of a double game week soon, but with that, it doesn't matter. This guy is scoring like crazy at the moment, and in some of these game weeks, he is going to be the best captain option. You could even just captain him every week, because he always finds a route towards points. But Cole Palmer is another potential captain for game week 16 with Brentford at home, his next fixture. We know that Brentford are a very weak team when playing away from home. Pretty poor travellers. So Palmer could take advantage of this with his improving form. The penalty master. I guess you could say the same about Salah as well there. But Palmer, well worth having in your team right now. And another star player of the team, penalty taker, is going to be Saka, who is also going to be our 3rd premium midfielder in this team. Everton up next. I don't think it's the perfect fixture. Crystal Palace, I don't think it's perfect either, but Arsenal have the tools to break down these lower block teams, and certainly after that, the likes of Ipswich and Brentford are going to be fantastic fixtures for Arsenal. So I prefer the next 2 for an Arsenal defender, but after that, I prefer the fixtures really for an Arsenal attacker. So lots to be had for Arsenal. They have great fixtures for a very sustained period of time now, and I would be looking to capitalise on that by going for triple Arsenal in any FPL teams that you guys are building right now. But there are more double ups. It's not just a double Liverpool and a triple Arsenal. We're going to double up on Chelsea as well, because how about Enzo Fernandez? He's been doing brilliant recently, and I was looking through some of the numbers here, and over the past 6 game weeks, I like 6 game weeks to look at attacking form, we have seen that per start, Enzo is genuinely competing with the more expensive players. Now, no surprise to see Salah and Palmer with the highest expected goal involvements per start, but Enzo is also very much in the mix, and at 4.9 million, we can't say no. Now, his role has changed. He's playing a little bit more attacking. I do think he is going to be at some rotation risk during the more difficult fixtures for Chelsea as they look for more defensive solidity with Caicedo and Lavia perhaps in the midfield. However, in the easier fixtures, and these are the games you would want to play Enzo, he is more likely to play. He's putting up great numbers. He is a set-piece taker. If Palmer's not on the pitch, he's going to be the penalty taker as well. So actually, there are several routes towards points for Enzo now that his role has changed and now his minutes are looking a lot better. So really do like this pick, particularly the idea of playing him against the likes of Brentford, Everton and Ipswich. I think he is good for minutes in those games. And at 4.9 million, you can't really go wrong with this one. But he is going to be part of a rotation that we're going to speak about in the near future within this video. So let's go up front. Alexander Isak is our first forward. He is probably the guy most in form for goals at the moment in the forward category. Leicester and Ipswich, two newly promoted teams in the next 2 game weeks. And even after that, Aston Villa and Manchester United, these are teams you can score against. And Isak being the penalty taker, looking really good for minutes at the moment and in red hot form. I think he is going to be the guy to go for in the forward position and would be my number 1 forward transfer target this week. Try and get him in if possible. But there are some other players that we'd want to go for as well, slightly cheaper options here, and they include Cunha, who has a really nice next 2 fixtures as well. Same 2 fixtures, but in reverse. Ipswich at home and then Leicester away for Cunha. Really, really nice here. Set pieces, penalties for Cunha. He's dropped off his form a little bit. I am recording this before the West Ham game in game week 15, so maybe he can start to redeem himself, but certainly I still think he is worth going for unless something drastic changes, I suppose. Again, even Man United and Spurs, they are fine fixtures for an attacker. We have got João Pedro here as well. He's your cheap guy. I think he works really well for at least the short term because the fixtures are nice. The price is very good as well. Another penalty taker, and he looks like he is starting every game now, which is put a lot of our worries to bed. Could see him start more as a striker as well, which is quite nice to see. With these kind of players, they have the best fixtures, really. If we look through the best fixtures for the attackers, we see Wolves, Newcastle in first and second for the next 4 game weeks, and Brighton are pretty high up here as well for best fixtures for attackers. Each of these teams has pretty high expected goals for, and you would imagine that their star strikers would hog a lot of those attacking returns as well. So we do like the look of these players. Very high predicted points, very high predicted goals. So that's definitely something we want to be having a look at as we go into these next game weeks. But we have to look at the bench, and the bench is important here. Now, let's look at this. First of all, I have gone for a 3.9 million goalkeeper to keep the price down. But if you've got Fabianski, I think he works fine as well. Obviously, Fabianski has more minutes potential. But if you think Fabianski is eventually going to be dropped and you don't have a Fabianski already, then a Virginia is fine. 3.9 million saves a little bit of budget, but like I say, Fabianski is absolutely fine. And we have Ahmad here as well. And I want to talk a little bit about fixtures here for Ahmad because he works well, I think he works well anyway, in a 3-man rotation. And that's going to be the 3 cheap guys you see. So we have Enzo at Chelsea, we have João Pedro at Brighton, and of course we have Ahmad, who looks like the star really of this new look Manchester United team. So let's look through some of these fixtures that they have ahead of them. And every week, at least 2 of them have pretty good fixtures. So game week 16, of course, we have Chelsea and Brighton with the better fixtures. Going into game week 17, you go probably João Pedro against West Ham, and then you choose one of Enzo or Ahmad, depending on who you prefer out of the Everton and Bournemouth fixtures. Then in game week 18, we have Brentford for Brighton and Wolves for Manchester United. You could maybe afford to bench Enzo in that game week, and then Enzo would come back in. Maybe you would say that one of Ahmad or João Pedro you would play in game week 19, kind of down to you. And beyond that, game week 20 really is the only game week here where at least 2 of them don't have pretty decent fixtures. So it's pretty nice. 3-man rotation, bench 1 each week, and you should be able to capitalize on a lot of good fixtures between now and like the next 10 game weeks. It really, really does look brilliant. But that brings us to our defender. Now, we've got a cheap defender in Ben Johnson, 3.9 million. Nice cheap guy there. If you prefer a 4 million guy or a 4.1 million guy there, or maybe even a 4.3 or something like that, I think that works fine. However, with two premium defenders in Trent and Gabriel, there's only really one place up for grabs, a third defender slot, and you could just rotate two players in this position. I don't think you need to have a fifth playing defender in this kind of structure. And Kirkes and Munoz, they are another pair of players who rotate brilliantly. Now, for the next 3 game weeks, most likely, you are going to probably play Kirkes against West Ham, Man United and Crystal Palace. After that, Munoz really comes into play, playing against Southampton in 19, back to Kirkes against Everton in 20. Game week 21, we go to Munoz against Leicester, and then West Ham in 22. Game week 23, probably Kirkes against Forest. 24 is the only difficult fixture for both teams in this rotation, but you probably would play Munoz against Manchester United. After that, you know, plenty of opportunities to really play either of these players. And one of the reasons I picked out Munoz as well as Kirkes as a nice combo is because Munoz's attacking potential is just enormous right now. It's crazy. In the last 6 game weeks, 10 shots, 10 in the box, 5 big chances, 2.27 XG, and a little bit of creativity with 5 key passes during this period as well. He is so attacking right now. Crystal Palace, their defense is improving week on week. They've now broken into the top half of the table for non-penalty expected goals over the past 10 game weeks, which is brilliant to see. And I think that's going to continue to improve as well with some better fixtures on the near horizon. So Crystal Palace, and specifically Munoz, really interesting players to have a look at, and the Kirkes Munoz rotation works beautifully. It really is absolutely quality, and that is something that I'd really like to do. So if you've got a player like Nori in your team right now, maybe after a couple of game weeks you could look to move him to Daniel Munoz and take advantage of a Kirkes Munoz rotation. So Kirkes would be the defender to buy, or the cheap defender to buy right now, but in a couple of game weeks time, add Munoz to your squad and you've created yourself a cheap defender rotation that works brilliantly. 2 good defenses, 2 attacking defenders, 2 defenders with bonus points potential, and 2 defenders who work well with their fixtures in conjunction. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful, and I really like that. So definitely something to consider going forward. But like I say, guys, this is not necessarily a team that you have to build perfectly right now, but rather hopefully has a lot of good ideas of kind of team building over the next couple of game weeks and what we can start to be working towards with our transfer strategies. This has really helped me out with my own plans when having a look at making this team. So definitely recommend you try and think about some of the ideas discussed in this video. If I have missed out any ideas, please let me know as well. If there's any players you feel are missing from this team or any other rotations that work really well for cheap defenders or cheap midfielders, I'd love to hear from you guys. And if you don't like the cheap bench, let me know as well. If you have a little bit more budget, then definitely the bench is somewhere you could choose to improve there as well. But yeah, let's finally throw a captain's armband on Cole Palmer. He is my preferred captain for Game Week 16. Vice on Mo Salah, but it could really go either way with these 2 players. And this is the kind of team I love for Game Week 16. If you've got a wild card, something like this works well. But if you've got transfers, a couple of free transfers to use, start building towards something like this. Beautiful stuff. There we go, guys. Thank you so much for watching today. If you did enjoy this video, do drop a like, do subscribe if you're new around here. I'll be back tomorrow for yet another video. Buy, sell, keep, avoid, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.